In this lab, management has asked you to implement port security on a switch. So, what is port security? Also known as MAC address security, port security is a feature that can be placed on switches to help prevent unauthorized access to the network. Specifically, it associates specific MAC addresses with specific switch ports. How does this provide security? Well, let's say you have a laptop in an office that is connected to a jack port on a wall using an Ethernet cable. That jack port is connected to a patch panel, let's say 24. That patch panel 24 is connected to Switchport Fast Ethernet 0/24. So essentially, your laptop in your office is connected to Switchport FA 0/24. Now, let's say someone sneaks into your office while you're out of the office. Then they try to connect their laptop into your office jack port with the intention of using the VLAN you're connected to in order to get past some ACLs. Well, with switchport security, the switchport will notice that the data frames that laptop is sending has a MAC address source that doesn't match the assigned MAC address of the switchport, which was your laptop's MAC address. As soon as the switchport notices this, the switchport will just shut down. That way, that sneaky little snake can't access your VLAN or access anything on the network through that jack port and switch port. So we have one switch, 3 PCs, and 3 switch ports. Let's start with assigning PC 1's MAC address to switchport Fast Ethernet 0/1. So let's console into the switch, starting with a console cable. Then open a terminal application of PC1. Now let's jump into FA01's interface configuration mode. Switchport security enables the port security on the interface. Switchport port security MAC address sticky allows the interface to automatically learn the MAC address that the device connected to the switch port has. Instead of the sticky command, we could also have manually assigned a MAC address with the switch port, port security, MAC address, and then the MAC address right in there command. The next line is switchport port security maximum 1, which tells the switchport that only one MAC address is allowed on this switchport by default. If we had an IP phone and a laptop or computer, we'd probably want the max number of MAC addresses to be 2 instead of 1, since there'd be the IP phone MAC address and the computer's MAC address. Okay, so then after all that, we need to state the action we want to take if the security we're putting in place is violated with the switchport port security violation shutdown command. The options for this command are protect, which blocks the unauthorized MAC address from having access, restrict, which logs the violation but allows the access, or shut down, which is the one we used, where the switchport is just disabled. Okay, now pause here and do the same for the other switchports that the other PCs are connected to. Now, let's see how we can verify the status of the switchport security commands. First, let's make some traffic move through these switchports by using PC2 to ping PC1 and PC3. Now, with our console into the switch, we can use show running configuration command, which will allow us to see the commands assigned to the interfaces. We can also use show port security interface FA01 or FA02 or FA03, which would show us the MAC addresses learned by the switch from the traffic we placed on the network through our pings. We could also use the show port security command for a summary view to see if there were any violations. The show interface's status, which is a handy one you can use during troubleshooting, can be used to see a summary status of all the switch ports. If we wanted to see all the assigned MAC addresses, we could use the show MAC address table command. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to move PC3's connection to PC2's switch port by first deleting the Ethernet cables connecting PC2 to the switch, and then grabbing the Ethernet cable from PC3 and putting it in Fast Ethernet port 0/24. 2. Notice the connection now stays red. Back on our terminal view in the switch from PC1's terminal application, we can see the changes we made affecting the switch through its logs. Notice that FA0/2 changed to administratively down. That's because of the violation. Let's check the show interface status command to see what went wrong. Notice how Fast Ethernet 2 says error disabled? That right there is a hint right away that something happened to that port. If we look into the port security of that port with the show port security interface FA0/2, we can get more details. The port status is a secure shutdown. And we can even see the last source MAC address that caused the violation. Okay, let's put things back to normal by first moving the Ethernet cable from FA02 back to FA03 for PC3. And then let's put an Ethernet cable between PC2 and FA02. Notice how it's still red. See, this is because the switch port is still in error disabled mode. We need to shut down FA02 and then do a no shut to basically reset the switch port for it to get out of the error disable mode. Think of it like shutting off and then shutting back on your computer, but for a switch port. So notice once you do that everything starts working again. Now, save your configuration, save your packet tracer lab, and update your notes. Once you're done with that, create your narrative. After that, share the Google Drive folder you have for this lab with anyone with a link can organize, add, and edit access. Then, submit your lab. If you don't know how to submit the lab, refer to the instructions in the lab's intro video section of this program. After that, you can move on to the next lab.